I think I'm more optimistic than pessimistic. I don't know. I mean, you see a lot of bad things. I mean, just talking about Texas, right? Talking about my high school, Allen, right? You see a lot of bad things in the news, right? But when you go to school, right? What I see a lot of teachers that care. I see a lot of, guidance counselors and students that care, right? That stuff doesn't get posted, right? But that's the stuff that's real, right? I feel like that's more real to me, at least, than, what might be on CNN or whatever.
100%.
Right? So I think that, I mean, if everyone saw that and if everyone valued that, right, that part of, their lives, I think most people would be optimists, right? I mean, we still have a lot of good things going for us, right? Here in Texas, here in North Texas, and, obviously across the country and across the world.
Hey y'all, welcome to the Texas Forward Podcast. This month's Volunteer Spotlight features Mitul Gouni. He is a junior in high school from Allen, Texas, and has been actively volunteering for the Communications Committee and Immigration Subcommittee, working on research, social media, and policy. Those of us who have had a chance to work with him know he is a crown jewel, always positive, hardworking, and responsive. Mitul and Brian covered how Gen Z looks at American politics and the future ahead, what it was like being a student during the COVID pandemic, and the impact of social media on the modern-day high school student. Thank you for listening, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Mitul Gouni. So this is another Volunteer Spotlight edition of the podcast. Mitul has been doing a ton of work for us already. So he's been a part of two of our committees, our Communications Committee and the Immigration Subcommittee. He's been doing research. He's been working with social media, and he's been even doing some work on policy. So he is already quite the accomplished volunteer, and we're really excited to chat with him today.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah.
I have to tell you, you have a very special honor. Mm-hmm. Of all of our guests, you are the youngest guest we've ever had on the Texas Forward podcast. Mm-hmm. So congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to be here with y'all.
Excellent. We're glad to have you. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lee. We're here with Mitul. Mitul, how old are you?
I'm 15 years old.
And you are a sophomore?
Sophomore in high school, yep.
Very nice. So have you always been political?
Not really. So I think I really kind of got into politics starting my freshman year, so last year, and then I've kind of just rid that train up till now. Just getting involved, and I found Forward, and I thought, this is something new, something that I believe in. So, go ahead and try it out, right?
Very nice. So you recently kind of came across the Forward Party. Were you just not really interested, or what? Did you have any perception on what was going on in the world of politics before that?
Yeah, so I came across the Forward Party online on social media, right? And what I saw it as, right, is I saw it as kind of an agglomeration of some of the beliefs that I held that were on the left, and then some of them that were on the right. And I saw this is a solution, right, where we can advocate for things that, I believe in, but also maybe other people believe in, under kind of like a common umbrella of respecting each other, right, empathizing with each other and kind of pushing each other forward, as opposed to, the volunteering that I've done in the past with, both the Democratic and the Republican Party, right? And not that there aren't good people, right, on those kind of sides, right? But they're very quick to put down each other, right?
Definitely.
And me being on both sides, right? I saw, there's decent people here, there's decent people here, and they don't think that, they don't see that, right? But here at the Forward Party, we do, right? And that's the party that I want to be a part of.
Absolutely.
Right.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yep.
I know a lot of people agree with that sentiment for sure.
Yeah.
So what did you do with the Republicans and Democrats? Was it just kind of similar type of work, or what sort of volunteering were you doing?
So it was phone banking with both of them, right? Wow. So essentially I was on their call crews. They both have like call crews.
Yeah.
Right? So I phone banked for local candidates, right? Tried to kind of get myself assigned to candidates that I knew a little bit more about.
Kind of liked.
Yeah, kind of liked, exactly, right? Because I'm not the biggest proponent of, everyone that they kind of put up on the ballot, but
for sure.
Yeah, so I just phone banked and I talked to constituents. I block walked a lot. I still do block walk a lot for both parties, right? So that's, just something that I do just to kind of talk to constituents. Most of the time they don't answer the phone, they don't open the door. But when they do, it's always an interesting conversation. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating. So are you still doing that type of work with those organizations?
So I've kind of went from doing it with the parties to kind of just doing it locally for local candidates, right? So that isn't really party affiliated, at least, in North Texas, right? The way that we have it set up is a lot of the local offices are technically nonpartisan, right? There's definitely like conservative versus liberal representatives, right, on the councils, but they aren't affiliated with the Democratic or with the Republican Party.
Yeah.
So I just locally kind of campaign for who I think, deserves the vote.
That's great. I mean, super impressive, Mitul, honestly. I don't remember what I was doing when I was 15, but I guarantee you it was nothing like this. And I had far less knowledge about how, local government and just, all this stuff works, let alone, was I getting involved to this degree? So hats off to you there. What you mentioned, you wanted to align yourself with candidates that kind of, matched your values, what was important to you. How would you define, like, what are the things that are your maybe pillars or interests and priorities politically?
So I think the first thing is respect, right? I think that goes a long way in just, keeping politics and, the kind of the ways that we do things, right? Keeping that functional, right? Making sure that, if there's at least a base level of respect that we're giving to each other, then we're able to utilize all of the ideas that are kind of put into the political drawing pool, right? And we're also able to listen to each other so that we don't need to waste time and energy kind of shouting, over each other or trying to do that.
Yeah.
Right? And then I think another part of it for me, right, is realizing that a lot of people have very mixed views on politics, right? More so than, say, oh, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, right? So I think just including those people, right? A lot of those people, in my opinion, are the people that are less political, right? We think of them as less political, right? They have strong beliefs, right, when it comes to one or two of these issues, right? But they don't really care about the other stuff, so they aren't as involved with politics. I want to bring those people in, right? Show them here's a value kind of principle-driven, movement that you can put yourself behind that isn't about, oh, I don't have to be a Republican, oh, I don't have to be a Democrat. I can, put myself towards something with values that I agree with instead of with policies that I agree with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love what you said there at the beginning where when you do have that mutual respect, the best ideas can actually rise to the top. And it's not just what my 10 talking points from my team, these are the 10 things that I support. And it doesn't matter if the other side might be making a really good point, I'm not interested in listening to it.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yep.
And it's so true too. So many people just tune out. If, you might identify as a Republican, let's say, but you don't agree with what they're doing on abortion or, you do believe in climate change or something along those lines. And you don't vote as a result because you just feel like you just don't fit in any of those boxes. So you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
So you're from Allen, Texas.
Yes, Allen, Texas.
And unfortunately, recently there was a tragic, terrible mass shooting there in a mall. And that was not far from where you live. That's right?
Right. Yes, yeah. It was a couple blocks actually from my house.
Terrible.
Yes, yeah.
Well, very close to home, literally speaking. And I mean, there's just so much negativity, things like these mass shootings. I mean, we've just as a country become numb to them. I know personally I have. It's like every day one of those flashes on your phone.
Right.
It's like, there's another. As terrible as that sounds, it's just you become numb to it at a certain point. But as a young person growing up, there's just a lot of negativity going on. That being just one of many things.
Right.
Has gotten people pretty down. As a country. How does that negativity with things like that and just the state of the world, how how does that affect you and kind of your peers, just being where you're at in life and seeing all this kind of just negativity and pessimism going on?
I think that it really, what I see at least, right, it really beats people down in terms of, when you have all this negativity, right, all of these bad things that you see out there, right, you want to be less out there. You want less of the bad things. So you kind of detach yourself, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I see a lot, right? And I think most people realize that a lot of kids don't care, right? A lot of kids themselves say, I don't care about this. I don't care about that, right? And we kind of just attribute it to being, oh, they're kids. They don't, they're kind of, still figuring things out, right? But I do think that there's something genuine there in that a lot of kids feel disconnected because they want to be disconnected from everything that's going on, right? Especially because as kids, right, they're told that they can't do as much, right? They can't vote, obviously, right? And also, realistically, they can't do as much, right?
Yeah.
To prevent those things and to get involved in those things, right? Because they're kids. And it's not because there's, governments going out and stopping them, right? But it's because them being kids, right? They themselves feel like, my place is school. I'm not supposed to be out there campaigning, doing all this stuff, right? But all this bad stuff is still happening, right? I keep working hard, right? I keep putting all this effort into school, into my relationships, but none of it's actually fixing anything, right? Why am I here? What am I doing with my time?
Yeah.
Right? I think that really affects kids, right? Deep down, right? That kind of sense of purpose, especially as things have kind of gotten more busy for kids, I feel like, this past generation especially, right?
Yeah.
With, school and then a lot of kids trying to do more outside of school, right? There's a lot of work that kids are putting into things and they still don't see the benefits of what they're, kind of doing, and they just disconnect and detach.
Yeah, that's a sad thing. And how can you blame, I don't think anybody can blame kids for feeling that kind of disempowerment.
Yeah.
As a when you're 15 years old, when you're a kid, you still answer to your parents, you still answer to your teachers. You just don't have that autonomy that you do as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point and the example that you are setting with what you're doing, getting out there
mm-hmm.
and just doing so much already, you can get involved. You can do something.
Right, exactly. And I think that it needs to be kids that teach other kids that they can get involved, that they can do something, right? And it doesn't even have to be political. I just think that, getting involved with, your church or something like that, I think getting more kids involved in their community in general is always a good thing.
Absolutely.
Right? It helps them feel like, it helps ground them, right? And that, especially when you're a teenager, right? When you feel like you don't have, anyone, sort of group or family that you belong to, I think having that kind of grounding is really important.
Right.
Yeah.
And it gives you that blueprint.
Yeah.
Those people that can take you under their wing and mm-hmm. show you, what their experiences have been and help to put you in a position to succeed and just give you that, you said it perfectly, they're grounded feeling
mm-hmm.
of stability.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So do your peers, do you talk a lot about politics? It seems to me that, your generation is probably a little bit more politically active than
mm-hmm.
generations like me. I'm a millennial.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, at least prior to 9/11, and even after that, you kind of had this sense that, okay, like the adults, they've got it under control. Like the country's pretty stable. I'll worry about this stuff later. But it seems like your generation just at large is just kind of getting more involved from an earlier age. Is that
mm-hmm.
is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think more kids are getting involved, maybe not to...
At least paying attention.
They're paying attention, exactly, right? They're reading, they're, and they're taking up opinions on this stuff, which is good, in my opinion, right? Like they need to start thinking about how they feel about these kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never want to see kids, I don't know if this is just like a personal kind of bias, but I don't want to see kids as involved as adults. I think that there's some value in just being a kid for a little while, right? I think a lot of kids try to, skip that step now. They don't want to do that, right? They're just, they feel like, there's all these, crazy kids that are doing crazy things. I need to, be working and studying, and they don't take time to just play outside, have a snow day, those kind of things. Maybe not a snow day in Texas, but have a day off is what I'm saying.
I hope they don't get rid of snow days just in general with the remote.
I would hate that.
We just don't get them in Texas.
That's true.
We just don't get them. But do you know, is that a thing are there snow days still or are they Zoom classes?
I think some districts, like bigger cities are kind of transitioning to that, but I'm glad to say that at least the suburbs, like we're keeping with the snow days. Snow days, we don't get them a lot in Texas, but when we do, it's an event.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then that's one of many things that as an adult, you just don't have those experiences anymore.
Exactly.
There's so many things about being a kid, organized sports, for example, unless you become a professional athlete, you just never get that opportunity again.
Right.
So it's like, that is so important to, yes, be involved. Yes, be doing all these things to, put yourself in a position to succeed and believe you can do something, but
you just have to balance it.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. Yeah. So on the subject of Zoom, you also were in school during this whole COVID thing.
Yeah.
I seem to remember from a few years ago. What was that experience like?
It was I think it was really different for me versus some of the other kids, right? I think what most people did during COVID was, first of all, not a lot, right? And also they did whatever they could to basically avoid doing work, right? Because it was essentially a year that kids had off, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
If you were at home, yes, you had work, right? Yes, you had schoolwork to take care of, but not really, right? Like it's just a couple assignments here and there. You don't really have to show up to class, right? I feel like it was really, really hard on teachers. That's the one thing that I love the year at home, but I think that for teachers, that must have crushed them, right? So open a Zoom classroom and see 4 kids there with all of their cameras turned off. None of them are paying attention. That must have been so bad for them.
Yeah, and it was just unprecedented. They've never done anything like that.
Exactly, right?
No manual on how to do that. Maybe, never have even used Zoom before.
Exactly,
they're less
right.
tech savvy.
And the older teachers too, they were just like, how do we do this, right? How do we work this, right? And it was an event. No, I had one of my teachers actually, she had us write reports, right? And what she wanted us to do was kind of document COVID like it was like a historical, this is something that people are going to be studying in 100 years.
Yeah.
Right? It's an interesting thing to live through.
So looking back at it on the lens of historians' perspective.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
Yep.
I remember 9/11. That was the COVID of my generation. I remember we had a teacher come into our classroom. He whispered something into my math teacher's ear, and the teacher just stops and he says, when I was a kid and JFK got shot, we remembered this for the rest of our life. And what has happened today, and this is before we knew what was going on, by the way. We're just what are you talking about? What's happening? Yeah. And he's like, you're going to remember this day for the rest of your life. We're just kind of and then, a bunch of kids went to gym class. So we had next, and me and a handful of others were just watching the TV. I'm not going to stop watching this. What is happening?
Right.
So that, to me, that's almost like COVID was a very, very different, but one of those moments that history will remember that just will shape your whole childhood in a way. Interesting. So for you, technology, like the Zoom thing, for instance, your generation's never grown up without it.
Exactly.
So how do you view it? How do your peers view it, just in specifically social media? Do you see it as in a positive light, or what's the general perception of things like social media and technology in general? I think
people think less. I think kids think less about social media in a positive, negative light, just because it's such an integral part, right, of so many of their lives. It's something that's there, right? Positive, negative, it doesn't matter. It's going to be there. It's going to stay there.
It's always been there.
It's always been there. It's always going to be there to some degree, right? the question that I think a lot of kids ask themselves, right, especially as they get older, is this something that I want to kind of buy into more and more, or is it something that I want to use in a more kind of like limited capacity?
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think the main considerations that kids have are, is this something that's going to benefit me? And is this something that I enjoy? Right? Because a lot of kids genuinely do enjoy, right, spending time on social media, right, interacting on social media. I mean, I don't know how it was for y'all, right, but being popular at school, for example, right,
Yeah.
now is all about having a big social media following, right? It isn't the jocks, right, or it isn't that isn't the thing, right? It's if you're big on social media, then you're big at school.
Wow.
Right? That's how it works, right? It's kind of it's a social type thing.
That's
now,
wild.
Right? Yeah. So I don't know. Positive, negative. You can't kind of like.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Exactly.
That is the playing field we're on.
That is
currently.
the play. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I can't. Yeah. But I do think it takes a lot of discipline. I respect that discipline for those kids that kind of, stay off and just don't interact on that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's not saying that there isn't discipline in, kind of balancing yourself while staying on social media. Right. Because that also takes.
Yeah. Yeah. And, on the other hand, I don't think my first instinct with what you just said is that is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
That is the new being popular
Yeah.
at school, just because it's detaching you from reality.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you're good at social media, you learn how to be, effective and message on social media. That is one of the most sought after skills in, the world.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
you can sell yourself, sell a product, I mean, you can become an entrepreneur, and that's not pipe dream like
Exactly,
a lot of people
right.
like to present it as. And a lot, especially older generations, will say like they'll rag on kids for saying 1 in 4 kids under 18 want to be a YouTube star, or a social media influencer. It's like, well, I mean, how can you blame them? Are these other options really that much better?
Yeah. Yeah.
That you're, the world is offering these jobs that are probably going to get automated by AI in 5 years.
Yeah.
So definitely interesting to think about.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you have a very, I think, thoughtful perspective on this. I mean, is that something that a lot of kids that you're friends with talk about, like social media in that light of, should we be doing this as much, or is this a good thing or a bad thing?
I think kids are more thoughtful than people realize, but they don't come out and say it, right? Like they quietly delete this app. They quietly, download this app and make a profile on it, right? As they kind of make decisions for themselves on, this is something that I want to spend time on. This is something that I don't have time for.
Sure.
Right. But they can't explain. Like I don't think even I couldn't even explain, right, why exactly I have the social media apps that I do and why I spend the time that I do.
Fair enough.
It's
giving you value or it's not.
Yeah. It's just like, as you're like, oh, I've been spending too much time on this, kind of cut it, but you don't say anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, social media is something that I hope we'll look back on the same way we do with something like cigarettes. And obviously they're not the same thing at all.
Yeah.
There's so much positive that has come from social media. But I say that in the sense of knowing the risks. For example, suicides with teenage girls are skyrocketing, and all sorts of different mental health issues that have to be directly linked to what you said a few minutes ago, where if you want to be popular,
that's it.
Be pretty on social media, and it's all these filters, and this is not what people look like.
Yeah. Social media is I think it's the biggest. I mean, people talk about it a lot, but it deserves the attention, right? Like, especially with kids putting like 5-6 hours towards it a day. It's a bigger part than school, of some of these kids' lives, right? So I think when it comes to impacting kids, right? Not saying that I'm for or against a TikTok ban, but I think that just, that any sort of action against or for TikTok has a more direct impact on kids than, say, some of these things that people are doing, trying to like, ban books or those kind of things.
Yeah.
Kids don't read books, right? Kids aren't in the school libraries. I wish kids were in the school libraries, but they're not, right? They aren't checking out books to, they're on social media, right? That's what they use. I think social media policy is, the best way to influence kids if that's what people are trying to. Yeah.
Fascinating. Do you read books?
I read books.
Read a few.
I used to read books, but I need to get back into that maybe a little bit more this summer. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Books are nice. They're fun. Yeah. But I know between school and sleep, sleep.
You're a busy guy, Mitul. You're doing a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
That's understandable. So what's the future hold for you? What are your plans after graduation? Are you thinking about college? What you want to major in? What do you view that? How do you view that?
So I think the main thing is that I want to stay involved with Forward and just politics in general.
Yeah.
Right. But also I want to kind of pursue a career path that gives me the time to do that, and that also gives me the time to, do other life things as they come up, right? Like I don't want to. Some people are like, totally enveloped by their career. I don't want that, right? I kind of just, opinions change, right? What I want to do kind of changes. I just want that flexibility, and so that when and if I feel interested in, getting more involved with politics, I can.
Yeah,
right.
You have that window of room for creativity or room for opportunity
right.
to present itself in some way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Very nice. So when you think about the future just in general,
mm-hmm.
especially related to America, what's going on here politically mm-hmm. and in the world with everything going on that we've talked about here today, are you optimistic, pessimistic, or other?
I think I'm more optimistic than pessimistic. I don't know. I mean, you see a lot of bad things. I mean, just talking about Texas, right? Talking about my high school, Allen, mm-hmm. right? You see a lot of bad things in the news, right? But when you go to school, right? What I see a lot of teachers that care. I see a lot of, guidance counselors and students that care, right? That stuff doesn't get posted, right? But that's the stuff that's real, right? I feel like that's more real to me, at least, than, what might be on CNN or whatever.
100%.
Right? So I think that, I mean, if everyone saw that and if everyone valued that, right, that part of, their lives, I think most people would be optimists, right? I mean, we still have a lot of good things going for us, right? Here in Texas, here in North Texas, and, obviously across the country and across the world. But we just need to, I think, tread carefully, right? Just, as we make these kind of decisions, especially with AI, right? With ChatGPT and with social media and with all of these different, kind of political and social things that are coming up. We just need to be cautious to kind of, make sure that we're not losing what we have right now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well said. Mm-hmm. You mentioned ChatGPT. I wanted to ask you this quickly as well. Have you experimented with that? I've heard it's really good at kind of
writing
teaching things.
I don't know about teaching. I'm sure it is good at teaching, but I think the way that students use it mostly is just to do their English papers for them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
it's definitely good at that.
It is good at that. It is good at that. It's really good at writing. I mean,
not that you would ever do that.
Not that I would ever do that. But it's a tool that I think makes teachers' jobs a lot harder too, right? Because yes, it's convenient when it's like end of the year. I don't want to do this writing assignment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, some kids, like, I get that, right? But now teachers are having to worry about, is this ChatGPT on top of everything else they have to worry about, right? Yeah. I'm against anything that makes teachers' jobs harder.
Well, there's a lot of things that are making their jobs harder.
I know.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
We've talked about a couple here.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the state is looking to raise their pay a little bit. I don't know exactly what the amount was, but it's somewhere between 1,000 to 3,000, something like that, right? Just enough to kind of keep up with inflation and all that. But I don't know. I think that teachers are more important part of school than people realize. Again, a lot of people worry about the curriculum, right? A lot of people worry about, the facilities, the safety of it all, right?
Yeah.
But actually having teachers that want to be there, that can teach, right? I shouldn't have to say that, but teachers that can teach, that want to teach, right? Like that's the most important part. And that's what people don't, because you can't quantify, oh, this teacher teaches well, this teacher doesn't, but the students notice, right?
Yeah.
And when a teacher cares, right, then then their students are going to care, right? And right now, I think we have not a lack, but I think a lot of our teachers, they're kind of just out of it, right? That makes their students out of it, and they, use ChatGPT or they use social media, and it causes all these other things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, raising the pay, that's one way to get people to better people in the job, and then also people to be more engaged. And that'd be a good place to start for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious too. You mentioned the value of having a good teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any currently? You don't have to name any names.
Yeah.
Do you have any currently, or that you've had in the past that have really stuck with you, and made an impact in your life?
Yeah, definitely. I've had one or two every year, and that's good. I think just one or two good teachers can really make a difference, when it comes to the course of a school year. But with 7 teachers, I feel like we need to try to get that number a little bit higher, right? And it's never the teacher's fault, right? All of my teachers they're good people. They care about their students to some extent, but they just have a tiring job, right? I think that
very hard job.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think people never even talk about the quality of the actual teachers when it comes to education, right? And I don't want to attack teachers, but I do think especially the hiring of some of the teachers that we have now with almost no training, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without any sort of education in, instructional practices.
Being an educator.
Yeah. They need that, right? We can't be, so, desperate for teachers that we're hiring whoever, is willing to teach, right? We need to be to the point where we're picking the best teachers for our students, because students, I think it matters, right? Having, that really, those good influences early on for kids.
No question.
Yeah.
I mean, there's never a time in your life where you're more malleable or more, able to be influenced in, more important years than when you're in school.
Right.
And these teachers it's not a 1-to-1, it's a 1-to-30, 1-to-25. I mean, think about the compounding effect of a good teacher. That's such a great point.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. We'll leave it with this, Mitul.
Mm-hmm.
What's one thing that would surprise the old geezers like me, the millennials, and the baby boomers, and these older generations about your generation?
I think that we care just as much, if not, more about, preserving things the way they are than some of these older people, right? I think that, this is more of a political thing, but I think kids are more conservative than news outlets paint them to be, right? There are a lot of kids that care deeply about their families, right? Care deeply about their communities. And I think, I don't know. I feel like those are the kids that I feel most compelled to listen to, right? Because they just seem so much more grounded. Again, going back to that, right? We care about, the same things that they cared about, right? That, the older generations cared about, right? Community, family, and making sure that everyone that we know and that we care about is okay and that they're looked after, right? I guess kind of putting it in a more concise way, right? We're not all that different, right? We have social media, we have all of these things that distract us, but we want to be the same people.
Yeah. There's just something to those institutions that have stood the test of time. Like
exactly.
That. There's a reason that those things, certain ones of them, of course, still exist. And
exactly. Right.
Yeah. Very well put.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mitul, this has been fantastic. I think you have an incredible future ahead of you, and we're just very lucky to have you here with the Forward Party. And
thanks for the interview questions. I really appreciated it.
Hey, man, pleasure's been mine.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to seeing what you do and keeping in touch.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you again, everybody listening. We're so grateful for your support. This has been another just fantastic episode, fantastic trip to Dallas. We got several of the comm team here. We've had a great time. As always, please let us know what you think of the podcast, what we can do to make it better, more exciting, more engaging, and we'll see you next week. But before we go, Mitul, you actually snuck a peek at these questions, so this is
I studied them before. I wanted to make sure that my answers were as accurate as
we have to hide his cell phone so he doesn't use Chat GPT.
No, I would never.
Well, this is our lightning round questions. Mm-hmm. So you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite thing about Texas?
It's a big state. There's a lot to do. I mean, I can, stay here in Dallas and I can find, a lot of different people to meet, a lot of different things to do. I can, go to our state parks and yeah, it's a big state. A lot to do. Yeah.
Indeed. Favorite book or movie? I know books maybe have not seen those, but
I don't know. I'm really into animation in terms of movies. So it's an older film called The Prince of Egypt. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen it.
Nice. I believe so. It's
like the Exodus story, but animated.
Yeah, I believe I have.
Yeah, nice. I like it. I really like it. Yeah.
If you could live anywhere else in the world besides Texas, where would it be?
Besides Texas, think maybe Nashville.
Yeah, great city.
But I don't want to move. Don't. Yeah.
No plans to move.
No plans to move.
He's here in Texas for the immediate future.
Yeah.
Very nice. Are you a dog or a cat person?
I'm a dog person. I think I appreciate, yeah. And I don't have any problem with cats. I feel the need
that,
to
Julie?
specify. But yeah, I do like dogs, yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Mm-hmm. What is one word that attracted you to the Forward Party?
Perseverance.
Nice. And what is the one cause or thing that you hope to see changed in your lifetime?
I want to see people. I mean, I don't know how to sum this up, but I want to see people kind of, just restoring themselves as part of their communities, right? I want to see people, find and get back in touch with, their families and with who they are, right, where they come from, instead of kind of just floating around and doing what appeals to them in the moment. I think, and I've mentioned grounding, but I think having, clear footing, right? Strong footing to stand on is really important. Yeah. I just want people to kind of get back to that.
Yeah. Love it.
Yep.
Well, you did great, Mitul.
All right. Cool.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
See you, everybody.